Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce and Joyce. For once, I'm going to say it's a Monday, and it actually is a Monday because last week we
It's
did
true.
this, and I was like, it's Monday, super confident, and it was Tuesday because Monday was a holiday. But
Did
today
you
is
get a
actually Monday.
calendar this week?
What's that?
Did you get a calendar
I
this week?
did. I did. Oh, I remember that today's Monday. So we're here again, Joyce, and we're talking about our favorite category of all the categories, limited series. I say that with a little bit of sarcasm because I think we enjoy comedy and drama, but there are a lot of limited series this year, and a lot of them I mostly enjoyed, very much so. But I think we've talked
Yeah.
about this a lot. There just is not a mayor of Easttown or a Queen's Gambit this year where they're like two very obvious picks. So it makes it more fun because there are 15 to 20 shows that could easily get a nomination, but it makes it harder for us because there's no obvious pick. And then like, what is it going to be basically?
Like no shade to any of the shows in contention this year, but I feel like any of last year's five nominees could like win in a walk this year.
Potentially. Yeah. We talked about this in our column, which we type with our fingers on Friday. And I keep going back to these spring or the fall shows as like, I think maybe one of them is just going to win. I've like kind of really
That was like literally what we talked about.
And I really think that's going to happen. So that those would be what are Dope Sick, White Lotus, and Made. I think all three will get nominated. So that already knocks out like a lot of this category. So we can predict up to 6 in our thing here on our predictions choice. So that would be half the category with those three shows. Making it difficult for these new shows to break in.
It's like, and also the thing is like none of the three were like massive like pop culture phenomenons either. Like people enjoyed like each of them, like they each have like their core base of supporters. I would say White Lotus is the most divisive of those three.
It's funny that it probably is, but at the time it was airing, I remember everyone was like, this is the greatest show.
Yeah, but I think it's also because of the mystery component.
Right.
It's
people
like
love a mystery.
Yeah, people love a mystery, and then like they don't care about it once like the reveal happens.
But I do remember like White Lotus being like the biggest thing, and I came to that one not late, but I definitely didn't watch it. I think we watched them all like in a row while it was airing, but we didn't like go week to week. I thought it was a very satisfying show. I do think it's divisive, but I actually think it's like the most interesting of those three. No offense to Made or Dope Sick. I think at least it's like, I think the fact that it's polarizing makes it more interesting to me.
Yeah, but like, does that mean it's going to perform the best out of all three of them?
Well, maybe not, but I do think you and I both have it getting the most acting nominations of those three shows. Because like you have, I think, three actresses in supporting.
It's just that I have like nothing to put in that category.
Plus Murray Bartlett. So that's 4 acting nominations. And you could argue that maybe even our boy Jake Lacey gets in as well, though I don't think I have him in. I would love to see it, as the kids say. So that could get like 4 or 5 nominations from actors alone. Makes you think maybe it could be the front runner in that regard, and it could win with Jennifer Coolidge certainly, and maybe.
But like that's just the acting branch. This is what people thought with When They See Us when I got 8 acting nominations. Right. They're like, it's winning, and I was like, nope. I was always on the Chernobyl train because that was a massive hit. When that like we don't have that this spring.
It's another thing we don't have. We don't even have a Chernobyl, Joyce. Then
we don't have a Chernobyl.
So if White Lotus is like a bad comp for When They See Us, certainly from a story standpoint, but at least like from an acting standpoint, then what is the Chernobyl? I think would be Dope Sick, but I don't know if Dope Sick has the broad support.
No, like I think it has, like, again, like they all have like their fans, and they did like okay over the winter, like they all won something, but they were like losing most of those like huge awards to like Mayor or like Underground Railroad, right? Like the most consistent winner was Michael Keaton.
Correct. And of those 3 shows, I'd say them right now, from at least, this is purely anecdotal, but from like a visibility standpoint, I feel like Netflix has done a great job keeping Made in the conversation, and it feels like the least polarizing of those 3 shows we're talking about.
Yeah, I think this is like something I mentioned in our column was I think Made and Dope Sick engender the most like empathy. Yes. Or because they're, socially important, whereas like White Lotus is a social satire.
Correct. People, there's not a lot to root for in White Lotus, you'd say.
Exactly. That's why it's a little bit more divisive, even if it's maybe more entertaining.
And so that leads me to wonder, the other shows here. So my list, I still have The Dropout in first. I just left it there. But I will say, I feel like The Dropout.
It's okay. I still left Under the Banner of Heaven in first.
So I feel like at the time it was airing, and certainly in my cloistered bubble of social media, which I've expertly curated through mutes and unfollows, people were very excited about the Dropout. And it felt like it was like a thing that was growing each week, and every episode was getting better. And I was like, oh, this could really kind of steamroll. And now that it's been off the air for a while, I feel like it has the conversation around it has disappeared, and it has not like shown a lot of staying power, I would say, beyond maybe Amanda Seyfried as Elizabeth Holmes. And again, another thing you're saying, the rooting factor on that show, similar to White Lotus, it is not a condemnation of Elizabeth Holmes directly, even though she's obviously taken down in the show. But I think that nuance makes it a little tricky, where people are like, what are we rooting for here? Are you supposed to like find her story sympathetic or empathetic? And that's like kind of what makes the show interesting. But I wonder, from a television Academy voter, they're just gonna be like, I don't like Elizabeth Holmes. I don't want to vote for this. Why aren't they making fun of her or taking her down? You know, that kind of thing.
Well, it's also just one of like the 20,000 scammer shows this spring.
And they're also all like nuanced in their own way. So I have The Dropout, and I still have my beloved We Crashed Joyce in there, which I love. And again, another show that is way more sympathetic or empathetic to its protagonist than I think people would maybe have expected, and intentionally so. I'll give you this one, Joyce. I interviewed the showrunners, so you know
I am shocked.
So you know I'm going to keep it in there. Drew Crivello and Lee Eisenberg, great. Love talking to them. Interviewed Jared Leto for this one. You know, I'm all in on We Crash, but that was like the thing they wanted to do. They did not want to do like a very specific takedown of Adam Newman from WeWork. They wanted to make it like so the audience is like has to actually think. That's, I think, maybe somewhat dangerous when you're thinking of awards, because people don't like to think usually. So
people do not like to think at all. They like to be told how to feel and how to react.
And so The Dropout and We Crashed are in that same boat. I have them both in, but I do think they require more of a nuanced nuanced thought process, perhaps, than people maybe wanted in those shows. And then the last one I have in for me is 1883. Just feels like just right down the middle. People love a Western, love Yellowstone. No thinking there. We got it. No offense to the show, just it's not like a nuanced thing, I think.
I mean, I definitely think it can get it. And it's just the most different, I think, out of all of these, like everything. And you know, it's not as noisy as a lot of these other shows in like any regard, because we've talked about this before. Like, I think its fan base is not that loud.
Its fan base is not that loud, but again, anecdotally speaking, I feel like they've really Paramount has done a great job putting that show in front of people who are like paying attention to the Emmys. They are like,
it has its diehard stands.
It has its diehard stands, and they're doing a lot of interviews for it, right? I feel like Isabel May has been everywhere, and Faith Hill and Tim McGraw are just doing a lot of stuff. I always think that matters.
And I think like it's, you know, with an unlimited ballot, you could just like check it off. And also, here's the thing, like we like to think that every voter is just voting by themselves, like they're consulting like their family members, like their kids, like their friends, you know. So parents are obsessed with B3, and with an unlimited ballot, you know, like that voter made their first like 5 picks of their faves, and it's like, oh, I'll vote for 1883 for mom and dad.
Correct. So I think that actually matters. I don't give you the other one I keep going back to that I haven't put back in, but you know I want to put back in. Can you guess what it is?
I mean, there's so many of them. You did not have your beloved Conversations with Friends.
No, I moved off that one. No disrespect.
You're super pumped.
Not super pumped because it just doesn't exist. No offense to super pumped. Love that show. Love Pearl Jam. Love the Billions guys. Love Jogo. But no, it doesn't exist. No, Joyce, the correct answer there was The Offer.
Because you talked to Juno Tempo last week. Yeah.
I didn't like Juno Temple, but it's not even why. I just think like when you keep going back to it, the Offer is, it has gotten mixed reviews, let's say, right?
It has as we checked last week or 2 weeks ago, as a 49% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 49 score.
But but audiences have enjoyed it.
Yeah, they were in I think one of them was in like the 90s and the other was like in the 8s. I think
Looking at Rotten
Metacritic was
Tomatoes
like
right now. So let's,
something.
I will see. 96 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. This is a
Mhm.
show that people very much enjoy watching. It is, anybody I've talked to in real life who watches it is like, that's a lot of fun, including my parents. So speaking of a parent,
Yeah, because
show,
again, it's a show that doesn't require a lot of thinking. So
none,
if you're someone
no
who is
thinking.
like a Godfather obsessive and you want something with a little bit more like regard to the actual making of it, like you're not going to get that here. This is like pure entertainment. Like they're very nebulous about timelines on the show. Like when this show starts, it's like already he's making Hogan Zeros, and it's like it never tells you what year you're in. Like things just happen and move along,
Right.
and you just have to go with it.
Right. It does not require a lot of thought. It is very entertaining, and I think the Hollywood aspect of it has been well received. While people have like mocked, I think a lot of like real like critics have not taken very warmly to the show. But I do think the struggle of a producer trying to make The Godfather, while it's like a hilarious thing to hang a show on, is actually going to be very relevant. And another show that I think has done a really good job of getting it out there, another Paramount show, like they're really pushing it. I got an email the other day from like, they're doing like a screening in LA with Vanity Fair, Joyce. It's just like they're having it out there. They're putting the cast out there. They're putting the show out there. It's wrapping up soon. I think this week was the 8th. Last week was the 8th episode. So we have 9th and 10th. I wonder if they're going to make The Godfather. I'm on the edge of my seat, hoping
Well,
they'll
as
make
we've
it.
already told people, the finale takes place at the Oscars. Spoiler alert: The Godfather wins Best Picture. If you don't know,
I'm sorry about it. We just spoiled it for you. But The Godfather does win Best Picture at the Oscars.
Yeah.
And the finale is amazing. I think the whole thing is really entertaining. And I just keep being like, should I put it in? Because I have multiple actors in at this point. I think I have Matthew Good in there, my boy, playing Bob Evans. I've thought of Miles Teller, but I haven't put him in. And I do think I have Juno Temple in there as well. Not just because I interviewed her, because I think the supporting actress category is wide open. So I don't know. I keep going back to the offer. I could just see it getting in.
You're really going to put 2 Paramount Plus shows.
I actually might.
Because we could just end up with 5 shows here. You know that, right?
Yes, I know. I could still see.
You're going to have like the 2021 3 and then 2 Paramount Pluses.
Correct. I don't know. I don't have it in yet. I'm just saying like that of all these shows, I could see that one really getting in. Just, it seems like the most basic, like easy pick. You know what I mean? Like all of these other shows are either, like you said, like you're not really like, a lot of them are asking the audience to root for people they don't like, which is a tough beat. And then you also have like Under the Banner of Heaven and Staircase, true crime things that are like also more meditative, I would say, pacing wise.
I don't know if like Staircase is more meditative. Like definitely Banner of Heaven, which just finished last week with its 90-minute finale. Amazing.
That is your Stranger Things to me.
No, because I have not spoken about Under the Banner of Heaven for 3 straight weeks like you have about Stranger Things. Excuse me, okay? I don't even remember the last time I talked about this. I think I just said like 2 weeks ago that I watched the last 2 episodes and the finale was 90 minutes, which again, I was not on board with. So you're on board with 2-hour episodes of Stranger Things.
Make them 3.
No, like I enjoy the finale of Under a Banner of Heaven. 90 minutes still too long for me, but I also wonder if people have like the wrong idea of the show, because I get this feeling that people were expecting to be like a Mayor, which is like slightly more straightforward of a murder mystery, you know? And this is obviously based on a true crime, but it's also about like indoctrination and like fundamentalism and like Mormonism, you know? And it's a thinker. It makes you think. And, you know, especially the last 2 episodes is slightly triggering as well. If you're someone who's been through something like that or know people who've been through something like that. But I wonder if some people have been like waiting to binge it, which I think is probably not the right way to watch the show, especially because every episode is over an hour. And I also wonder if it was like hurt by not being on FX linear, because it's an FX show, but exclusively on Hulu, not under the FX on Hulu banner, no pun intended, because that's been discontinued. But
Nothing confusing about this.
Nothing confusing at all to the people. But it's only on Hulu. And it's not appointment TV in the way that, you know, something like Mayor was, like Sundays at 9 every week, and everyone watched it at the same time and talked about it at the same time. You know, like you would watch the show on your own time during the week. So I don't think that conversation developed in the same way that maybe it could have needed had it aired on FX linear. Like if you're just watching Thursdays at 10 every week, you know, even though like this show was slightly slower than something like Mayor is, you know.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to me that now we've realized that, you know what, people liked when they watch TV, watching TV. They don't want to watch everything at once. And it's like the fact that we're going back to that is hilarious to me.
I mean, what absolutely killed me last year when there were stories, actual stories on sites talking about like how Disney Plus's rollout of WandaVision like changed, quote unquote, changed the game because it was weekly. I'm like,
yeah,
that's just regular TV.
We just call it TV.
We
didn't change anything.
Yeah,
and people want that. I mean, I swear to, like, I'll bring up Stranger Things again. I really do think that like the problem with this season of Stranger Things, which I love, is that there wasn't weekly. And every week, you know, from a conversation standpoint, when you have a show that ends with like thought-provoking cliffhangers, or like maybe not thought-provoking for Stranger Things, but like exciting cliffhangers or thought-provoking stuff, like, you know, like we've seen other shows, having a weekly conversation about it is much better than just throwing it all in there at once. Then, like, I feel like Under the Banner, this might be a poor comp, but to me, it reminds me a little of Underground Railroad in that it's like the most, I think of these nominees or potential nominees, it's definitely the most serious of this group.
Yes.
Even compared to Dope Sick, I feel like it's even maybe heavier than Dope Sick a little. Yes. I don't know. And the fact that it's like, yeah, I just think that maybe having the weekly conversation probably helps. But if people have waited to binge it because they've been under an influx of TV, then it's going to be a poor viewing experience, even though the rollout was appropriate, like a weekly rollout. Yeah,
because unlike Underground Railroad, which was a day and date, it's
wow, what a rough one. Like, I cannot believe I watched all of those in like 3 days, and it was not a great experience, even though I think the show is wonderful.
Yeah. And then like the runtimes were like all over the place.
There was like the penultimate episode might have been like, oh no, the 8th episode maybe was like 30 minutes, and then the finale was like an hour and a half, or you know what I mean? It was just like all over the place, and it was like not a type of show you need to sit. That's a show you want to watch once a week. And
yeah, and then also, you know, from like our perspective, like you and I, we've covered TV. Like in TV journalism, like it's a lot easier to cover episodic TV and to do like postmortems and like interviews with people talking about like the episode that just aired, and you focus on this one thing. And if it's like a cliffhanger, you can like tee up the next episode whenever it might not even be next week. Maybe they're taking a break, you know, on broadcast TV. Like,
right.
It comes back in like 2 weeks or something, or it's like the mid-season finale, you know, but it's like mostly everyone is on the same page because it aired at the same time, or it was released like just one episode at once. Right. So people only have one episode to watch during that week to catch up with it.
There's again another situation where if people just listen to us, it'd be so much better. Just a much better industry, I think, overall. Shows I want to put in there, but I can't because I just think they have not a lot of buzz. Station 11, I loved. Great show. Different flavor from a lot of these shows, which I think gives it maybe an advantage, but I'm not convinced people are going to go back to watch it. It came out, I think it was in the winter, maybe like January, I think, December, January.
It was late last year, I think. Yeah.
And on HBO Max, and great show, completely timely and relevant to the pandemic and just like life in general. Incredible acting and performances across the board. And again, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, are people like going to go back? If you missed Station 11 for whatever reason, which you could have, are you going to go back and watch it when you have 35 other limited series to watch?
I also imagine some people might not be ready for a COVID show.
Yeah, the opening of the first episode is amazing. I mean, the whole show is amazing, but like it's definitely like an emotional watch. And when they're like at the hospital with like Jeevan's sister being like, it's bad, everybody's gonna die, and then they have an aerial shot of like the hospital being overrun by people who are coughing, and then soon will be dead. Not an escapist fare, I would say.
No.
So maybe that's a tough one, but I would love to get it in. We've talked about, how about the historical dramas, Joyce, like a Gaslit or First Lady? I would say, what do you think?
I don't think either of them will be getting in. Like their best chances are in acting. And Julia Roberts had her best episode yesterday's episode, which was the seventh episode. It was like full on like Virginia Woolf between her and Sean Penn.
I'm kind of back on Gaslit a little because I think similarly to The Offer, it's an entertaining show.
Yeah, it's not entertaining in the same way that The Offer is entertaining.
No.
It's a good show, and I don't know. I think honestly don't know like how it'll do just because it's on Starz and they don't really touch Starz Emmy voters.
Right.
So
you mentioned Julia Roberts. Can we switch to actress quick? Because I just think that one's really fascinating, and another one where you could have 35 different people in. I don't have Julia Roberts in. I still have Jessica Chastain in, and she still is like top 3 in our odds, but I'm not convinced. I don't know. Do you think that show will have the staying power that like Maid will with Margaret Qualley, or any of those other people that we've talked about, those like earlier shows?
Like the only 2 people I feel good about are Amanda Seyfried and Margaret Qualley.
Same.
Like if you like give me like 15 other combos of the other 3 or 4 nominees, I'll be like, yeah, sure. Makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like that's with our odds, it's tough because I feel like Chastain's one who people just put in there from like, was on in the fall. She won Best Actress. Makes a lot of sense, but not sure if she'll stick. I don't know.
Yeah, I have her in there in 6th. I don't know. I might replace her with Julia. I might go back to Julia Roberts again. I felt like I couldn't have both Julia and Anne Hathaway.
So I have Anne still, and no one else does seemingly. Well, no, she's up to 40-1 in our odds, meaning that means you and I both have her in, and we're
the only people who have her, basically.
So incredible performance. I love her so much, and she's making a movie right now with Jessica Chastain, Joyce, which we're all over on the Film Updates Twitter, I feel like. But no, I love her in We Crashed. I think she's awesome, and I do really hope she gets nominated. And interestingly, she's not like pushing for it, I feel like, which is good, maybe. Just like letting the work speak for herself.
Yeah, she hasn't done, I mean, she did like the regular promo for the show when it premiered. And then I think like she and Jared were on the cover of like the Emmy magazine recently. But she's busy in Cannes with Armageddon in Time. And now she's filming with Jess. So
I still have Julia Garner in for Inventing Anna. The memes, the Netflix, the Julia Garner of it.
I have her too, just based on like her visibility as like being on 2 Netflix shows. Really,
I think that helps. And Inventing Anna was like a big hit, even if it wasn't like a critical success. I feel like people did watch it, and she's definitely the best part.
You watched it, and the results were very varied.
Yeah, but I do think she was the best part, and definitely the most memes. A lot of memes for her. And then I have Isabel May for 1883, my beloved 1883. Joyce,
you're just going down with 1883.
Just going in. But if I was going to switch her out, I would put Julia Roberts in probably. The other potential is I know some people have been excited about Renee Zellweger, Joyce, for The Thing About Pam.
Yeah, I don't know about her.
The thing about
Pam. The thing about Renee.
The thing about Renee and that show is not a lot of people have talked about it. So
no, and it aired in March.
Right.
I mean, The Dropout premiered in March as well, but I think Amanda has remained top of mind, and I think she's stronger than the show itself. But yeah, The Thing About Pam, even if it's like a big transformative role for Renee, I don't know how much that matters. Really, like I'm sure she has her supporters. Again, if she gets in, will I be surprised? No, because I think anyone can get in after Amanda and Margaret. But I would put several people ahead of her.
The other problem I think is that on the list, like this is a incredibly starry list of former Oscar winners, and I think of that group of Oscar winners, she is like on the low end of like visibility from the performance standpoint, right? Like you have Anne Hathaway, Julia Roberts, Viola Davis, even I think I would put ahead of her, and Jessica Chastain as well. So I don't know. I just think that show did not break through like the others did, good and bad, in the case of the First Lady.
Yeah, I don't. Is Viola still in like the top 5?
Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. She's right now in 5th place. I do not have her in.
I don't have her in either.
I just feel like, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. That show, again, mixed responses.
I think it's still on, right? I think it's still on.
So,
it's not over yet.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mentioned this before. Like it felt like it just went from bad buzz with Lipgate to no buzz at all.
Yes. That's always
because
that's
it's
a
not
tough
like
beat.
people are still talking about her lips. I feel like no one is talking about the lips anymore, you know.
No. It's almost like you'd rather have like a polarizing or a polarizing performance that continues to make noise. I would put like frankly, I'd put Julia Garner and like Jared Leto in that category where it's like they're doing a thing. People don't always love it in these particular shows, We Crash and Inventing Anna, but no one has stopped talking about them. It feels like, you know, you're still seeing people like talking about both of those performances. And Viola and the First Lady, people were not happy with in the early days, and now just
it was like the premiere, and I don't think like it just was like crickets after that. And again, I think Michelle Pfeiffer gives the best performance in that.
You said that from the beginning.
Yeah, like just a star. I would have preferred had the show just been about Betty Ford.
I do wonder. I wonder if they had to do it again. I wonder if they had to do it again. What you're saying about the structure, if they would have just done one person per season, would that have been a better fit?
I think that would have been better because it's just like the way they transition back and forth, and they like not all the episodes have like good through lines to carry you through. And then it uses like archival footage a lot to like take you back to like Eleanor Roosevelt. It's like real news footage from like 1930s, and it's like what's happening here. But like they're trying to like situate you, and then they use all these like shorthand things. Like even in like modern times of like Obama, they do like news footage of the legalization of like same-sex marriage. It's just like a montage with like a needle drop, and it's like they're trying to like get over or like get past something because they have to move on to like the next timeline, you know, to like show everything. Like I think like a 6-episode season of like Betty Ford would have been great.
Yeah, or even if you did, what if you did like 3, if it's a 9-episode series or whatever, 3 or so, you know what I mean? Like
I think that's what a lot of people thought it was, because when it was announced, it was like obviously they're not all going to share scenes together. So I think people thought it was going to be like Eleanor, Betty, and Michelle, and it's not. It's just like a mix in every episode of all of them.
Right. One show we haven't talked a lot about that how about Pam and Tommy? Again, another Hulu show.
Pam and Tommy, that was one of it wasn't a spring show, it was a winter show because it premiered in February.
Did premiere in February. Big performances from 2 well-liked actors doing transformative stuff. I think they're bringing them back around and trying to make that happen. I don't know. I feel like a Hollywood story about Hollywood, I think, is like interesting. The execution of the show, I was like mixed on because I couldn't get past the anachronistic needle drops.
Same, yeah.
Tough beat. I couldn't do it. When you're playing Steal My Sunshine years before Steal My Sunshine is a hit, not for me.
Yeah. Just remember last year, like I think it was like this time or like spring last year when the first photos of them came out, like full Pam and Tommy, and then everyone was like, give them Emmys. I'm like, no, give the makeup and hair team Emmys. Because we haven't seen them act yet, but I think like they're both good. Like Sebastian Stan and Lily James, I think they're both good.
They're really good. I love Craig Gillespie, who's the director of the show, or maybe the show or whatever. I don't even know what the titles are at this point, but he directed the first 2 episodes, and he does a great job usually of taking like a overlooked, you know, kind of tabloid sensation female persona and like showing what that was. Like obviously, I, Tanya rules, right? Like incredible movie. And I really wanted this to be more like I, Tanya, but I think Lily James is still good, though not as good as Margot Robbie was in I, Tanya. So I don't have them in, but I could see it just because I think it's when you watch it, because it's so flashy and stuff, it's an enjoyable watch, and maybe that will help, but I don't know.
Yeah, I actually have Sebastian in still. I don't have Lily though.
So I have my actors. I have Michael Keaton. I have Andrew Garfield for Under the Banner of Heaven. Colin Firth for The Staircase. Jared for We Crashed. Oscar Isaac for Scenes from a Marriage. And Ben Foster for The Survivor.
You're still on The Survivor.
I interviewed Ben Foster, Joyce, and good performance. I think the problem with that, again, is it doesn't really exist. Not a lot of people talking about it.
It's a TV movie.
It's a TV movie. But if I was going to pop him out, I don't really know who to put in. You have Sebastian Stan, and I imagine you have the other 5.
I have Sebastian, Oscar. I still have my guy Paul Bettany. I still have both Very British Scandal stars. And then I have the usual top 3, Colin, Andrew, and Keaton.
I don't know. Other people I've thought about very seriously here that I haven't put in. You'll be shocked to know Miles Teller is on the list. A resurgent spring for Miles Teller.
How much of that is because of Top Gun, though?
It's a little bit of both. Everyone saw Top Gun and he's awesome in it. And then also he's got The Offer where he's really good too. And I'm like, maybe that'll help him. It's like, could be. Love Top Gun. Joyce, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Top Gun, unfortunately for you, probably. So I think you liked it.
I liked Tom. Why do you act like
well, because you know me, I'm going to have to like ramble on about it. And you're going to be like, how are we still talking about Top Gun? Stranger Things style.
I don't know if we'll go 3 straight weeks talking about Top Gun though, but I like Top Gun Maverick.
And Sean Penn for Gaslit, even though I think no, but Sean Penn, I don't know. I was like, if that show, like we said, like it's on Starz, so it kind of feels like a little bit of a unknown factor. But I think
I would nominate like Shea Wiggum from Gaslit before Sean Penn.
That's true. I don't know. This is
there's like Samuel L. Jackson.
Who's out there pushing for it.
Yeah, he's out there. There's Amish Patel, your guy from Station 11.
I had him in for a while. He's really good on it, but I just think the other problem with that performance is that it's because the show is such an ensemble. I think it is not as much of a lead as some of these other lead performances. It's not category fraud. I actually do think he's like the lead actor on the show, but you could argue that maybe like it's just an ensemble and there's not as meaty of a performance as any of these other guys.
Mm-hmm. There's Oscar again for Moon Knight.
I've been thinking about that performance and I really like it. So I don't think he'll get in.
He had fun in that show.
He had fun, and the thing he did that was really impressive to me is I'm such a sucker for this, but I'm just like, man, it really felt like he was 2 separate people. He's playing like a guy with multiple personalities, and he really sold it. It really felt like
he's really good at acting, Oscar Isaac.
He's really good at acting. Yeah. I was like, wow, he really feels like 2 different people. You really believe that he's not the same person, even though he's the same person.
Wow. Yeah. So nominate, put him in.
No, I won't put him in, but because I still think there's a Marvel bias overall. And Moon Knight, I don't think is if WandaVision did really well, but I'm like, Moon Knight is like,
it's not the same.
Not the same. And we're all in on Loki here on this. I
think of their 3 shows, Moon Knight, Loki, and Hawkeye, Loki has they're the Marvel's best chance of performing well. And that's not even making like drama series or like any above the line. That's just like below the line stuff, really.
What if Loki was a comedy?
But it's not.
No, it's not. It's not at all. What if Hawkeye was a comedy? Oh, wait, it is. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. How about we want to go to supporting act? This is where we get into a lot of
mess.
Just mess. Love mess. I have mine is Unhinged. I'll just read them off. We kind of mentioned this before, but I have Jennifer Coolidge for White Lotus, Andy McDowell for Maid, Caitlin Dever for Dopesick, Faith Hill for 1883, Juno Temple for The Offer, and Connie Britton for White Lotus.
Yeah. So I have 3 White Lotus ladies.
Yeah. So I have 2. You have 3. So you have Alexandra Daddario is the 3rd.
And I have Caitlin, Andy, and I mentioned this last week. I put Rosario in last week, Rosario Dawson from Dopesick, but I'm thinking about dropping her for Anika Noni Rose instead.
Anika Noni Rose has really, I feel like, moved up on the odds. I think I just saw she's in, let's see. I got to count now, Joyce. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th. just behind Ellen Burstyn and Laurie Metcalf.
Ellen Burstyn's still there. Huh.
And Laurie Metcalf's still there. And then Toni Collette, who I think we said is running lead.
Mm-hmm.
So really,
although this would be like such an easy win for her in supporting.
Yes.
It's Staircase is ending this week, so she's in 6. Obviously, it was the Owl Theory.
Right.
She had to do that. Also a great 7 was also a great episode for her. Yeah. So this category, I think, could really just be people from those 3 shows from last year.
It could. We didn't even talk. I mean, what about like the other? Well, what about like Parker Posey though for Staircase?
I liked her fine. I think she has like a very loud, like scene stealing performance, and I think that's why people like fall for it. But she's really like more minor on the show, and like Juliette Binoche is a bigger supporting presence. Like she's like dominating the last half of the show. She plays Sophie, the editor, with whom Michael Peterson had a relationship. And I think I've mentioned this before, like I actually like all the kids. So like I really like Sophie Turner. I wouldn't predict her, but because I don't think any of them have enough to do really. And it really is like the Colin Firth show.
Right.
That I wouldn't go so far to predict any of the kids, like Patrick Schwarzenegger or anyone, right, or Dane DeHaan. But I would give, if SAG had a limited ensemble category, I wouldn't mind them winning that.
We will continue to beat that horse, I feel like, with SAG. Get this category in SAG, especially this year. I feel like it would actually be really fun.
Also it has no home now, so.
Right. Well, that's true. YouTube, here it comes. For limited series movie supporting actor, Joyce, you'll be shocked to know I have Matthew Gooden first for The Offer. Right there, number 1 with the bullet. Love him as Bob Evans. Just a hilarious performance. I have Murray Bartlett from The White Lotus, Naveen Andrews from The Dropout. I still have Seth Rogen in there for Pam and Tommy, Tim McGraw for 1883, and Peter Sarsgaard for Dope Sick. Yes, I did move Joe Allen out.
Wow. How could you? Are you just like completely over Conversations with Friends?
No, I still like it. Actually, I think of the 4 actors, I really would love to see Alison Oliver, who's the lead, get in. She's amazing, but I just don't think she could get in when she's competing with, like we said, like multiple Oscar winning actresses. I don't think people are going to be on their ballots being like, Julia Roberts or this person I've never seen before. Maybe even if she's the better performance. So I'm just not convinced that the Television Academy will embrace a newcomer in that regard, especially since they didn't do it for Daisy Edgar Jones, who was arguably louder in the cultural discourse than Alison Oliver has been.
Well, yeah, Normal People was received better.
Yeah, I really like Conversation with Friends, or as we call it here, bad texts, because people are bad at texting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not confident in Sarsgaard getting in. I have him in 6th, like even though he's 2nd in the odds. I feel like that's more of a box check for some of our predictors than an actual passion pick.
This might be like sacrilegious to say, but like I need like a Hamilton in here because like I can't figure out like who like half the nominees are going to be in here. So like I have Murray, Naveen. I still have my guy Wyatt Russell from Under the Banner of Heaven.
I almost put him in.
I have Michael Stuhlbarg for The Staircase, not Dope Sick.
Yeah.
I have Sarsgaard and Nick Robinson for Maid. So
I almost put Nick Robinson in too, and I think you could argue if Maid ends up being like a big driving force, it could get in, and he would be like the Thomas Brody Sangster of this year's nominees, maybe.
Yeah, and then he doesn't really need to bump out a Bill Camp.
Correct.
From his own show.
He could just
who's going to be the Bill Camp? We talked about this last time. Like, who's going to be the Bill Camp?
I think Skarsgård, even though I have him in, I really do feel like that's one where people are like going to be like, oh, how did he get not? He was 2nd in the odds. How did he not get nominated? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think from that show, the only 2 performances you really, or like people really love, like everyone I know who've watched it, are Michael Keaton's and Caitlin Deavers. Like those are the most
those are the ones that had the most noise. And yeah. I think a little bit, again, like Michael Stuhlbarg is like a villain.
You could also just like, I don't think he would get in for both shows. Like,
correct.
Staircase and Dope Six. So and like Staircase is more recent. I guess that's also part of my thinking. And he does more in Staircase as well.
Right.
I feel like, so I don't know, but there's there's William H. Macy for The Dropout, who I had in like early on, and his forehead. I would like from The Dropout, I would nominate like Stephen Fry, who was very
Really
sad.
good.
Yeah, really good, very sad performance. Dan Stevens is also good on Gaslit. And I don't know, man. Yeah, didn't you put in Tim McGraw?
I think I have him in still. I do.
You have him?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going in on 1883. I just feel like that's going to be one. That's why I'm like, I'm not sure, even though these are like 100 to 1 odds. I'm just like, if these shows end up being the ones that people watched, like a Hamilton style in that regard. Like one of the things about Hamilton was like everybody watched Hamilton. So it was like easy to just be like, all the guys from Hamilton, shrug.
Yeah. And I also feel like people were like in denial about its inevitable win at the end for best TV movie, because people just love Bo Burnham and wanted him to win and Inside to win. But I was like, everyone watched Hamilton and everyone loves Hamilton.
And so if everybody watches 1883, and to some extent The Offer, though I don't think it's as popular as Hamilton, I'm not saying that. I think you could argue that these guys get in very easily because they're just going to be like, I love Tim McGraw in 1883.
Yeah, I think the thing with like all of these shows though is like we don't know like how like the differential in like the strength of their support, so we don't know like what will win out again, because 1883 can also easily be snubbed if it doesn't have enough of that. We just have no idea,
right,
like their strength relative to each other, because I think a lot of them are very comparable. Like there's no one like just like light years ahead.
No. Hilarious. It just is. This is another one of these joys where you just end up being like the end emoticon is this. I don't know what to say. So I feel like it's just too many options, and like who knows until we know what's going to be the thing that pops.
But that's why I'm like, they'll just maybe default to those 3 shows last year that aired at a time when they weren't being inundated with 10,000 shows to watch.
It's true.
And like we know they were seen and they were nominated and won certain things over the winter. So they didn't do like exceptionally well, but like they were nominated, and Dope Sig just won a Peabody today.
I feel like, I mean, those are definitely the odds on favorites, and they're all shows that people liked. And like you said, we all know because of the landscape was smaller, people watched them. And so that'll end up being like a big advantage. So if those end up being the 3 highest nomination total shows for a limited series, I would not in the least bit be surprised.
Yeah. And it'll also be interesting like next year to see how everyone adjusts their release strategy with the elimination of hanging episodes. Because
explain that to the folks, Joyce.
So now currently, if you have hanging episodes that are airing nationally, being like released to the public before voting starts this year on June 16th, they're still eligible as long as you make them public, or not public, but available to Academy members by May 31st, which is the deadline for every Emmy cycle. Next year, they're eliminating that. So it has to be available like nationally by May 31st, no matter what. So like this year, if that rule were in place this year, a lot of shows would be ineligible, like The First Lady, which is still airing, The Staircase, which wraps up this week, Under the Banner of Heaven, like limited series, the entire show would just be bunted to the following cycle.
Right. Gaslit, almost half of the ones we've talked about here basically would just be like shunted off.
Yeah. So because of this new rule in place next year, obviously like networks will have to roll back their to earlier premiere dates for their shows to make sure all the episodes for the shows air by May 31st.
Right.
So we'll have a wider spread as opposed to just being, like this onslaught of shows in like April.
I mean, I would definitely prefer that, like spreading it out. because it's just too much. And it's kind of sad because, like we said, like a lot of these are good shows without a chance to breathe. And it like hurts. It's such a weird thing because there's so much, like you've said many times, the great coining of a phrase, mass TV. You end up not just hurting the shows that are on at the moment because there's just too much and people can't watch or talk about it. There's hard to find shows that everybody's watching, and feel like even in my personal life, just being like, oh, have you seen this? Not at all.
For sure.
Right. So you have that issue. And then also because there's so much, you lose the stuff that came out earlier because people just are like, I can't remember Station 11. I'm not going to go. If I miss that, I'm not going back and watch it. I got to watch 15 other shows that just premiered. So it does like hurt like the whole industry. I feel like it's hurt by just shoving everything in like 2 weeks or like 4 weeks, basically, before the voting close.
Yeah, this was not like
closes.
5 years ago when there were fewer shows, when you could like backload a lot of things.
Right.
It's just, yeah, there's too much TV. So like I don't even think if like Squid Game premiered in the spring, it would have been as big as it was. Like it premiered in September when nothing else, it had no competition basically.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, like if you needed something to watch in September, you could just, turn on Squid Game, and like if you had FOMO because everyone was talking about it,
I'll be curious to see how this we've obviously spent this time talking about limited series. I'll be curious to see how it plays out for something like in the drama category with Squid Game and Succession, obviously our beloved. I think nothing has come close to hitting the heights of Succession. So I don't think it's going to get hurt by that, but
well, no, because also Succession is a returning show. Like I think it's different for returning shows and like limited series, which are completely brand new.
That's true.
Yeah. So
anything else, Joyce, before we wrap up here?
You're not going to talk about Stranger Things for the 4th week?
No, you shamed me into it. I'm not going to talk about it at all. Well, I'll save that for drama. Maybe when we do the drama one next, we'll
I can't wait.
I'll tell you all about how I think Sadie Sink should get nominated, and the Variety article raising her had some good ideas.
The last 3 weeks, you said you were not going to add her, but that was before the show premiered, and now everyone wants to predict her or thinks she can win. So do you feel peer pressure to add her now?
Well, I feel a little bit, yeah. Oh, for sure. Also, I don't want, I'm like, I was like, I watched the screeners. I knew she was really good, but I didn't want to like, predict her. Now I'm like, I got to predict her. I'm not going to let
do you though?
I'm not going to let these other experts get in there and try it. Experts. I will say I have her in. We'll talk about this obviously not now, but I will say I have her in, but I don't have her winning. I think that would be a leap. But we'll see. Joyce, this is so much fun. We'll talk again soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.